Imagine like a 2x2, and then on the x-axis you have demand, and then on the y-axis you have competition. So there's demand and then there's competition, right? So there's basically like this golden space, right? There's demand and competition is both low. Then there's high competition, but there's like low demand. And then we finally have like high competition, high demand, which is basically performance marketing, let's say, for e-commerce, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example of something which was low competition, high demand, but it isn't anymore. And that's UGC content. So agencies, yeah. So there was a time when no one was providing it, but every brand needed it. And they used to basically reach out to individual people on Instagram and ask them to create UGC for them. But now everyone is providing it, right? To Meta and TikTok are providing it themselves. So how I would suggest someone who's starting now, I don't need to do this strategy because I have a base of clients and I have case studies. But if you were starting out, then you want to start with the low competition, high demand, something like this. Right. So I told you about 2 retention channels, which you didn't mention. You said email and SMS, and I said push notification and Facebook Messenger. These are good examples. But the problem is people will benefit from it, but they don't really need it. They don't know that they need it. So I still would place it in like that, low demand, low competition thing. And that's usually like my upsell. So that's just my upsell. So how I would see this 2x2 is I would start with something which is high demand, low competition. So right now I see in the industry, there is that affiliate marketing has taken a backseat in D2C e-commerce, and it needs to come back because now they are talking about UGCs, but they're forgetting the fact that UGC is just content. But if you were to have these people post that on their social media and give them coupon codes, that's where you can actually turn that UGC into revenue, right? So if someone goes with this pitch and then slowly goes into something which is sort of the medium range, like email marketing, SMS marketing, retention, and then builds their way up to performance marketing, which is the high demand, high competition. There's a reason why it's high demand, high competition. Most of the money is there. So it's not like you should just settle managing affiliates and influencers. You should then build it up and do retention marketing, and then you should build it up and do performance marketing, because e-commerce, if you can easily handle the full funnel as an agency, you don't need to depend on anyone else. If you are a good marketer, you can build the entire funnel. So my approach now is, since I already have case studies, I'm starting out reaching out with the retention pitch. So the Klaviyo, email, SMS, and adding, then my next upsell is push notifications, Facebook Messenger, retargeting. And then I say, hey, what's happening? The revenue from Klaviyo is not increasing. What's happening to your ads, right? Like, what's happening? Because as soon as they blame me for Klaviyo becoming stagnant, so what I can promise is they are doing, let's say, 15% revenue from email or 20%. I can push it to 30%. That's pretty much what I can do, or 35% if I go crazy with A/B tests and implementations. But what else can I do? Then they need to bring more people in the funnel in order to improve the revenue. So I can always go back to them and say, hey, what's happening to your performance marketing? Let me do a free audit for you. Then it's much easier because I'm already someone they trust. So, but if I go out and say, replace your performance marketing agency with me, there's no one going to give a shit about that email, right? Because that's something they get 100 a day of. So
exactly.
Yeah, that's just like my way of thinking about this. So just whatever industry, I think this 2x2 works for any industry. We had that recent client, Jayant, which I shared with you, the $3,500 retainer, right? So from this month on, it's going to be $5,000 a month. And so that's a $1,500 upsell in just 30 days. And the only thing I told him was, hey, this is great, Klaviyo and all that, whatever we are doing. But in his email footer, he had social media links. And when you click on the links, nothing is happening on their social media profile. So I was like, and I showed him the click map from Klaviyo, that people are literally clicking on these social media channels and never coming back to the email because there's no activity on social media. $1,500, we manage the social media for him. But the point is that there's so many ways to just upsell from there on. And like you said, once you're already making a $5,000 from a client, you can just say, I'm also going to do TikTok ads for you and get 10% of the revenue. I don't need any retainer for that because your costs are being recovered in the first retainer. Because then what happens is, there are agencies who are doing one thing. So there are agencies who are doing Klaviyo agencies. Then there are agencies who are performance marketing. But if you start to do this full funnel thing, you become irreplaceable because 100%. To replace you, they need to hire 5 agencies. So first case study is like the one which is closest to my heart, because there was this fashion client who came to me with just an offline business, like literally didn't even have a Shopify store. And the day I set up their Shopify store, within 6 months, COVID happened, lockdown happened, all of those shipping issues happened. And except for the logistics part, it actually worked out in our favor because people now started moving online and their offline business was completely shut down. So they moved all their budgets. Imagine this big fashion house in the US moving their offline.
I mean, can I name it? That American Beyond?
Yeah. American Beyond,
okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
awesome.
so that gave me the opportunity to actually build that funnel up, and that's the first client where it all started. And within the first year, we did $1 million in revenue. That was the first year, like from setting up the Shopify store to getting $500 of revenue a month for the first 3 months. We set up ad campaigns, we found winner creators, we found winner products, and scaled it to $1 million in a year. So that really got me into the game when it comes to seriously thinking about moving to
$1 million.
Exactly. And the best part, Jayant, is the next year we scaled it to $4 million. So we 4x.
Oh, crazy.
So the second year we did $4 million, and this is the third year. But the point is that before that I was still doing ecom and this and that, but a few other things. I was working with startups, I was consulting startups. But that's when I said, this is my game. I want to go deep into this D2C stuff, and this particular target audience, since that's a fashion brand, I got into that female audience because I understood that audience really well. And then I realized, female fitness products, skincare, hair care, all of these are very, very related industries. So that's like one big case study, is from $0 to $1 million in 1 year to $4 million in the second year. We were dreaming of getting an order an hour, basically. That's how we had calculated it. So,
oh wow, yeah, one order an hour.
Yeah. So we were like, if you don't get a notification of an order every hour, then something is wrong, right? But of course, it happens in the waking hours and all of that stuff. But on an average, it comes to like one order an hour. Same process that I said, started building the performance funnels, got them from 1% conversion rate to 2% to beyond that. So slowly scaling everything up. AOV was like $70. Now it's $125. Slowly adding all of these layers of experiments. Like you always do it in layers. That's what I believe. So you have this, you have the best practice layer. On top of that, you have the hacks layer, and on top of that, you have the trends layer, right? So something is trending, you can add that on top, like those 3 layers. And this is still a journey, still a client, still working together, and one of the biggest case studies that I had. So there's a free growth marketing course that anyone can take at growthmarketingcourse.com. It's a very easy domain to remember. So I don't want to come by, don't want to let my creativity come in between search engine optimization. So that's the place where they can get the free course. But there's also a community that I'm building of entrepreneurs, freelancers, marketeers. This was suggested by Deepak after I had a few calls with him. So it's called Growth Grad. It's at growthgrad.in, GRAD, Growth Grad. It's the place where you have the courses, but also you can interact with people, talk to people who are in the similar journey as yours. And of course, one of the things that helped me build this is Alpha Club. So I should definitely mention that, having calls with both you and Deepak for both my businesses, the agency and the coaching, is something that has really helped me. Because as you know, I'm off the grid, man. I live near the beach. I live in Vietnam. I hardly, go to these meetups and events. So for me, this community is like the place where I can have these conversations outside of, you always go and speak on podcasts about yourself and you're sharing your inputs, just like this podcast. But in the Alpha Club calls, you guys are talking about what I should do, and that's where the inputs come in, and then I can process those inputs. That's like the biggest advantage that I found. Like you mentioned, I'm not even in the group, but I still find that value of those calls that we do. Like that's really the thing for me. So yeah, building both these funnels. Happy if people want to check it out.